time to take things up a notch.
Shawty had them apple bottom jeans, boots with the fur.
This place? You know, it's not for you.
Lots of people get lost in Saltburn.
Oh, that's just giving me goosebumps. Look, Pamela. Oh, no.
Saltburn is a film written and directed by Emerald Fennell, a woman I am reliably informed is not a green mineral or vegetable. I was curious about this film because it has a cool title, it had an interesting trailer, and I was told that it was similar to The Talented Mr. Ripley, which is a good Matt Damon film. And, moderate spoilers, yes, it is The Talented Mr. Ripley, with a few parallels to Parasite, a smidge of Cruel Intentions, and maybe even a bit of Clue. And aesthetically, there's a few obvious reminders of The Shining. And, as discovered in a very brief amount of reading online in preparation for this video, there's an indirect vampiric aspect to the story that does come through after a little reflection. Vampires don't usually have one of those. Heyo. The very little direct violence we see is fairly muted, and the tension tends to blend into comedy as opposed to erupting. A lot of the visual storytelling is really good. The mansion of Saltburn feels cavernous and intimidating, very much a character itself. Tonally, the dark comedy feels like a very strange combination of Wes Anderson and David Fincher. Would I entertain the judgment that combining the two creates a sum greater than its parts? No, not really. But you could do much worse in terms of comparison, and so I think it's no insult, as both of those guys are filmmaking masters. Okay, as for the plot, well, I can't really say that anything terribly surprising happens. If you go in thinking, okay, I've seen The Talented Mr. Ripley, or even any of the other films I mentioned, then small individual moments may come unforeseen, but the overall direction is pretty obvious. Our main character, Oliver, is an awkward outcast at Oxford from lower social and economic class, and he successfully ingratiates himself with Felix, a rich, handsome student socialite. Oliver receives sympathy from Felix for his struggles and later a family tragedy, and is invited to summer at the country estate of Felix's family, Saltburn. Oliver navigates learning the customs and manners of the ultra-wealthy, weaving his way into the family. Some of this is executed excellently. There are deliberately cringy moments of lies being discovered and confronted, and tense moments of opportunity for Oliver, but there are some surprising dead ends early on. A strange classmate fades out of the plot after being abandoned by Oliver for sake of more popular and affluent circles. This character's only purpose, even though they had some interesting scenes together, was to show Oliver as willing to abandon a fellow outcast, thus getting us unsubtle hints into his character. Other early hints of Oliver's obsessive nature mean that there's no real surprise when later revelations come along. An aggressive skeptic and rival, Farley, Felix's cousin, causes Oliver much embarrassment throughout the story, and the character is an inescapable analogy to Philip Seymour Hoffman in The Talented Mr. Ripley. However, both attempts to oust this opponent are a bit anticlimactic, and it is surprising there's no third iteration of their conflict. There are hints about tension and latent hostility with the household staff, primarily the butler.
Can I help you?
However, for the most part, it doesn't really go anywhere. So what's my overall take? Well, Saltburn is more style than substance, but it's got a fair amount of style, and the substance isn't too bad. It's better written than, say, Glass Onion or Knives Out, both of which I think are pretty bad scripts, but with pretty good style.
It's so dumb.
Oh, it's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
And I almost forgot, the film is presented in a 4:3 aspect ratio, which produces a cramped, uncomfortable feeling, sometimes like you're looking through a keyhole. I didn't even notice this until a few minutes into the film, and I do think it was effective, if a little bit less effective than a really artsy film like The Lighthouse. Oh, one more thing. The film is very, very, very gay. It's really, really gay, or bisexual, occasionally paraphilic, and okay, it's Hollywood, that's par for the course. I don't find it particularly interesting, but there are a few grosser moments where Oliver's actions are just perverse. These moments don't really do all that much for the story and are kind of just shock value without much in the way of payoff. It's a rich people living in hedonic debauchery vibe that's, well, okay, it's modern film. So if you can separate the art from the artistic culture from which this is produced, then I would say this is an adequate, okay, reasonably interesting film for your time. It's not a masterpiece, but it's definitely not bad.